time to shuffle up. With Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan, let's fill our cups. Commander decks in hand, the battle's about to start. A podcast for the legends, where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold. With heroes and villains, new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way. In the world of EDH we play.
Hello again, and welcome back to Commander's Pod. We are discussing the takeover, not hostile, what was given to them of the
handing off
of Commander to Wizards of the Coast by the Rules Committee. We kind of started this last week, so if you haven't seen last week's episode, you're missing half the conversation. But we're kind of picking up where we left off. So we were talking about how people were worried that Wizards was going to, or Hasbro was going to ruin the format, that this was not good. And we talked about how, you know, there's very much a sky is falling mentality when there's change. And it's always, this is going to be the death of insert here, Magic or Commander or life as we know it. You know?
Right. We talked a little bit about how people are speculating hard about unbannings and which cards might come off the banned list.
Right. Yep. But for those that are new, I would suggest going back and watching that episode because you're only getting half of it. But my name's Duncan. This is Sloan.
Hello.
We got Andrew over there.
Hello again.
And Jeff is normally with us, but he's in France, so to heck with him. We will make fun of him incessantly.
Yes. Yes. We will.
But talking more about this, so we've talked about the fact that Wizards may or may not unban cards. They now have that right. How soon is the other conversation we had?
Yeah.
We've talked about the fears that they're going to ruin the format. But let's get into the tier system.
Right.
Yes.
So they also, when they took over, they started talking about this tier system that they're working on. Now, this is actually what I had thought was the talk of them handing off CEDH with the Rules Committee, them handing it off to Wizards. I misinterpreted a statement that was what they were doing. This is the tool they were working on.
Right. And that's what we're assuming. I don't know if...
Right. We don't have 100% confirmation.
Yeah, I don't... Because I think
it fits very well with...
Because
they did make a comment that they had worked with the Rules Committee on this idea of the tier system.
Because it was Olivia that mentioned it.
It was Jim speaking about Olivia.
That's right. That's what it was.
Right.
When the conversation turned to Dockside Extortionist and the other two bands, the Crypt and the
Jeweled Lotus.
Jeweled Lotus.
So you've forgotten it already.
Yeah,
how time heals.
Olivia had been how Olivia had been the advocate for only doing Nadu and Dockside initially and waiting on the other two until they saw if the new tier system properly segregated the power level of the players, thus making it less of a feels bad for the more casual players.
Right.
So yeah, and they had talked about they had this tool they were working on with Wizards to make it so that like-minded players can play together. That was all they had said, and I had interpreted that as maybe they were going to hand off CEDH to Wizards to manage because it was not really in the theme of the standard EDH, but that is not what that was.
It turns out it's far more complicated than that.
I do believe it was this tier system. So for those that don't know, they're talking about assigning tier levels to give a indication
individual singles, yes.
Yes, as of their power level.
Right.
Right.
Now,
and I believe the scale's 1 to 4.
Currently, that's what they're talking about. They're still working out the details. They said they may actually have something released when the Las Vegas, MagicCon Las Vegas, which actually, by the time this episode airs, I will have already been there. So I wish I could come in and tell you now what that was if they release it, but maybe that'll be the next episode.
Right.
But I also don't feel like they have gotten that much closer, so I have my doubts that it will be released then.
Yeah, the gist of the system as they've currently articulated it is 4 tiers, with tier 4 being the strongest cards.
Right.
It looks like their examples are kind of demonstrating that tier 3 are more saltier cards, but not necessarily powerful, just cards people don't like seeing in a casual game.
Right.
Tiers 1 and 2 being lower powered games. Tier 1 is essentially everything, and tier 2 is things that end the game quickly.
Right. So here's my concerns about that system. I like the concept of trying to make it so you can tell if your deck matches up with somebody else's.
That's been the goal forever.
I don't believe that you can put a number on it easily. I believe if you put enough data points in there, you could do it, but it would take forever and it would be unwieldy.
My kind of cutting to the chase here, my initial interpretation, well, the way I interpret this system is I think it's just too simplistic.
Yes.
What they've articulated now is just going to dump most players into tier 4, and we're right back where we started.
Or tier 1. Because
Well, again, with a rating system based on the strongest card in your deck, most decks are going to have one outlier card or more. And those decks are going to be indistinguishable from tuned, optimized decks.
right.
As far as this tier system goes.
So
Right.
many people expressed optimism with this system, and many people still are. And I'm not saying that I know for sure this will not work, but I don't think it will because, like you said, it's too simplistic.
yeah.
But the example they gave is my deck's a 2, but with Ancient Tomb, it's a 4. One card is going to jump you from a 2 to a 4. There is no one card. If you took a precon, there is no one card that would make you a 4. I guarantee it. I would put money on it. Unlike other things where I'm like, no, I know for sure. I'm saying this is fact.
Yeah, that's basically the root cause of my objection is you can't judge a deck's power level by one card in the 99 that is strong. Decks become strong by a critical mass of strong cards being in them and the weaker cards all being culled. If your deck is a few strong cards and a bunch of weak cards, you have a weak deck. Like I said, when I looked at this, I'm like, oh, because I just discovered this website, commandersalt.com. And it's a much more complicated calculation. And I think that's probably where they're going to end up with this. You can't have a system that you can do on paper for anything less than tax preparers and accountants and expect to get a good reflection of your deck's power level. Magic is too multifaceted. There's too many areas of approach. There's too many factors involved.
I mean,
your consistency,
here's the thing,
your
folks.
speed, your power.
Yeah, well, and your skill. We have always teased that any deck in Andrew's hands is CEDH. And there's a little bit of truth to that. When you have a good player, they can take a bad deck and make you feel like it was CEDH.
I've played welcome decks. Let me tell you, the complexity has to be there for the pilot skill to matter.
That's true. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, but I'm
Right.
just saying you can feel like something is way more oppressive than it is if a player really knows how to work that deck.
Well, I mean, I would say too that I feel like the way they're trying to do it is partially correct in my mind, right? So when I'm thinking about a deck, you first off, you got to take the pilot out of it. I understand it's hard to do that because, like you're saying, someone that really knows how to squeeze every single value out of a deck compared to someone who's like, I don't know what half these things do. Obviously, that is going to be a factor, but I think there is a way to get a number that would be satisfactory in regards to what that deck's capability is just as a deck, period, with no human interaction in that. Because I have been thinking about this a lot. Like, I don't think that giving cards a value is the wrong thing. I think that's actually the right thing to do. However, I think that it probably needs to be at least 5 and maybe up to like 10. And here's my thought process on it. If you were able to build a website where every single card has a power value number, just one card, right? Then what you do is you take all those cards, you add up their power value, and then you divide it by the cards in the deck, so 100.
Yes, the median.
There is your median power level of this deck. I think that's the safest way to do it, which I think this is on the path of getting to, right? Because in my mind, like you said, like you both said, adding a ancient tomb does not make my one tier level deck go to a 3 or 4.
Your Tomb Tribal deck.
Right.
Was the example.
Yeah. I'm now the master of the crypt. I am the Tomb King. It doesn't do that, right? We all know that as experienced players, and I hope that Wizards of the Coast realizes kind of how silly that is too. I hope. But my point is, Ancient Tomb is definitely a more powerful land than my Forest or than my Temple of the False God. Shout out to Lizard, his favorite card. Or my he's gonna shoot me the next time I see him if he watches this. Or my whatever, right? So I think there is a power value to each individual card. And I think instead of thinking of if you have this in your deck, it automatically makes you a this, that is the backwards mentality that we have, right? We're trying to say, oh, if you have these cards, you aren't any less than this. Here's a great example of it. If you were to take Urza, Hylor Artificer, right? Who cares about artifacts, and you were to put not a single artifact in that deck, he is not a CDH deck. Can people still win with him? Absolutely. Could you still make a pretty good deck with him? Absolutely. But if you intentionally put 0 artifacts in him and you didn't give him any gas at all, just because I put him on the table does not mean I am now playing CEDH, right? And that's my point, is that sometimes we think this one card automatically makes you this, which it sounds like they're doing. And I think that's the wrong thought process.
But here's another example. Thassa's Oracle. Very, very powerful. That is a CEDH card. If you had a poster child for CEDH,
It would be that.
It would be that, right? Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation, that is the combo.
Preeminent win con in CDH, yes.
Yes. However, I have those in my deck. That's what I tell you, right? You have a certain idea of what my power level is. What if you then ask more questions, right? Do you have tutors in your deck? No, I don't have any tutors. Now that power level went from here, it's down here now.
What's the critical? What's the average density of draw engines in your deck?
That's true too. That has an effect. But tutors are a step above draw.
Right.
Right.
But again, with a combo, a 2-card compact combo like that as a win con, you're getting there either via tutoring for the pieces or drawing into it via just massive amounts of draw.
Or you just play a deck.
Yeah, and
where you have that as a combo,
and
you have a few combos in your deck.
50 games, you just accidentally win on turn 2 or 3.
And that's my point. There is a big difference in an intentional
consistency
combo tutor for it and win deck, and a deck where you happen to have that combo in your deck.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. My Prosper deck. A lot of people hate Prosper, right?
Yeah.
I have
we saw it last night.
Yeah. Bryce specifically, which I am coming after you, by the way. But here's my point. I have 0 tutors in that deck. I do not tutor for any combos, and I have more things in that deck that are higher CMC value than probably what a Prosper deck is going to run. Again, to your point, just because I'm playing Prosper doesn't mean I'm comboing off on turn 3 and winning the game every single time.
Or Crick, or 1,000 other commanders, or 1,000 other decks.
Right.
There are definitely synergies that have to be examined when you're thinking about how strong a deck is.
Right.
What is the density of your fast mana? What is the density of your card selection, either via rummages and loots, or massive amounts of draw, or tutors?
Right.
What are your win cons, and how high a mana cost are they? Do you win by turning things sideways? How quickly can you flood the board? These can't be easily measured by a system that only cares about what the strongest card in your deck is.
Right.
It's got to be more complex than that. And because it has to be more complex, we're probably going to have to end up in a system where software calculates this for you.
Well, here's the thing. The professor of Tellurian Community College put out a alternative idea of a point system. You saw it? Did you have
I did not watch that video.
So it's very similar to what you said.
Canlander. Yeah, Canadian Highlander.
Yeah.
Except that he's not saying that you can't have beyond a certain level.
Yeah, there's not a 10-point limit, or no definitive limit of how many cards every deck has. Each tier has its own limit to the total cost of your exceptional cards.
And the parts that I really liked about his system, though, was the fact that if you have Thassa's Oracle, it's worth this many points. But if you also have demonic consultation, that bumps the number of points they're at.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of the thing. And if you want a system to work, to me, it's going to have to be a software-based system, but I don't think it's that complicated. I think you can incorporate it into all of the sites that you can make deck lists on, or you can build on, like Moxfield and like Scryfall, or not Scryfall.
Yeah, you
Architect.
could have like an
Architect
API that
Goldfish.
connects it into a Wizards website that imports your deck list into that website, calculates out your tier rating, and spits out one number that you can hand out to your opponent.
Right.
That's
And-
kind of what I'm hoping to see.
Right. And I think
so we have what we have here are different levels of complexity that give you the more levels of complexity, the better accurate number you're going to get, right? And we have to balance like what's realistically what most people are going to want to deal with how accurate we want to be.
Well, and I think that's why like using a median system makes the most sense, right? Because in my mind, for example, it's very hard to find a tutor that's like more of a high powered level, right? Because even more expensive costing tutors, like there's one, oh gosh, I'm gonna kill myself. I can't remember the name of it. I just saw it the other day when I was looking at cards. It's 3 in a black, and it's a tutor that says go and get any card you want out of your library, and I think put it into your hand. But then it has, if you have 3 or more instants or sorceries in your graveyard, add 3 black mana to your mana pool. So it's like, oh, so I just paid.
I think that was from Duskborn, maybe.
No. This is an older one.
It's a spell mastery card
Spell
from
mastery.
Magic Origins.
Right.
I want to say it's Liliana themed, but I don't remember the name off the top of my
I
head.
can't either. But like even that tutor, for example, that cost me 5 mana. If I cast it at the right time, only cost me 2, right? And so even that tutor that's that expensive is still more powerful than I would say a 1/1 elf that taps for 1 green, right? And so I do think that a median system where you're looking at cards and saying, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most powerful card, 1 being the most basic, and we're going to count all basics as zeros, right? We're just going to count basics as 0. They don't have a power level. It's just a basic land. Who cares? When you start using that kind of system and then you use the median number, in my mind, someone who is a kind of math-oriented person and someone who's more into numbers, and that to me makes the most sense out of anything. Because like you said, that's easy to incorporate into any deck building website. The other thing that's great too is since Wizards own it, Wizards can literally say, let's say they start taking over the CEDH scene, right? And they actually
They have already. I don't know if you heard.
Well, I mean, but they're actually going to start sponsoring and setting up CEDH tournaments, right? They're not going to be like run by little shops or conventions, but they're actually going to have CEDH tournaments, right? Let's say they do that. They could have their own website where they say, input your deck that you're going to play. Here you go. And it puts all the cards in there, and they could build a whole website that they would then control, and they can update as needed, and it, boom, instantly spits out your deck is a 22.4 average power level. Your deck is a 18.6. Your deck is a 44.9. Like, it is so easy in my mind to do that, because then you say, here's your scale. You could literally have, like, your CEDH decks are probably going to land, their median is going to be way up on the higher end of that. And you could, that's in my mind, instead of limiting it to 1 to 10 numbers, right? Which, how are you supposed to limit thousands upon thousands of cards and different combinations to, oh, I'm an 8. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Well, that's literally how you end up defining it.
Right. But with this system, because it's more based on the how much is the total power level divided as a median, it makes it more streamlined and clear. It makes it easier. It makes it,
all numbers can be normalized. That's
But
my counterpoint to what you're saying right now.
Well, so here's the other thing I wanted to get into on this whole, and any rating system like this, right? I can guarantee it, at least with this tier system. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a jerk sometimes. I cannot wait for them to come out with this so that I can build a deck of 100 cards that is tier 1 and will make somebody cry.
So this is precisely the point some of the CEDH community has been saying about the tier system. Instead of having one EDH with one CEDH based on the ban list, we might end up with 4 CEDHs. What is the best deck in Tier 1? What is the best deck in Tier 2? What is the best deck in Tier 3? What is the best deck in Tier 4? All of those become CEDH metas, fracturing the CEDH community in exactly the way they didn't want to do previously.
Right.
Right.
So my hope is that this is the first step in a more complex system, but they have not said anything like that.
Yeah.
They are kind of talking about this as the end goal.
This really feels to me like we're taking our very first baby crawl and kind of selling it as we're running a marathon.
The other thing I would like to see, and again, these are things, how complex do you want to get? But talking about the fact that the pilot matters, why don't they rate players?
Because that's an even deeper ball of wax.
I think it would be fun.
I don't think you want that to happen.
Okay,
I
how
do
much
want it to
standardized testing do you want to take to assign your pilot rating?
Oh, I'll do it all day, every day.
That's because you're a horrible person, as you just said.
Jeff just tried to call me.
No,
He must have heard us talking about him.
I guarantee you he was going to complain about, oh, you should have answered. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
We're all going to fail. He'll complain about us complaining about
Yeah,
him.
I would have to put it on speaker. It would not sound good.
It would
We
be
don't
great.
have a phone system built into these.
It would've
But
been
no,
great.
going back to, so I think rating players would be fun for the players. I think it would be something to strive for. I think it would be a status symbol. I think it would change cons. I think it would change how
I mean,
you can do tournaments. I think it.
the way
You can only do player ratings if you sign up and do it in a tournament. And the reason why I know this is because I play disc golf in tournaments. And the way they rate you is based off of your score in that round. They don't care about anything else.
It's very, very easy, but only for people that play in shops.
having been a judge back when the judge program still was a thing, this doesn't sound rating players doesn't sound any different than becoming a judge.
Right. Well, whatever. But my point is, shop owners, as the they report numbers to Wizards anyway. Their DCI, they used to use DCI, now they don't. They use other things. But they, to
Planeswalker
become a
points.
WPN, you need so many anyway. But the point is, depending on how often you play, is going to change your rating.
Well, but that's my point, is that you then have to go into a rated game where everyone wants to play rated, which would be a tournament.
No, most of the time, it's never going to matter.
But here's the thing.
But
what benefit do we get out of this? I mean, I guess you can
You
always
can
say
do-
you've
this
got
is-
bragging rights, but
Because you can do things where it assigns a handicap. EDH is a no. So hear me out.
I see where you're
No,
coming
no, no,
from.
no. In EDH, it's hard to do tournaments, and it's not just about power level. It's also about player skill.
You're
It's-
never going to sell handicaps in a competitive environment.
But EDH isn't supposed to be super competitive.
But-
I'm saying
and-
for a fun tournament,
Okay.
the fact that you run, if you and I don't
Hi,
won't use
guys.
it.
I'm a player level 8. I'm going to start with a 4-card starting hand to make it fair.
Right. There, sure. There you go. But I won't name any names, but there are players at our shop that it would be unfair if you were to even sit down at a table with them, Andrew.
But in the
It would
same
be
token,
unfair.
I have decks for those people.
Duncan, if that
It's still unfair.
Duncan, if that was the case,
If you don't get to look at your hand, that might make it
Duncan,
fair.
if that was the case, then they shouldn't have signed up for the tournament. That is on them. They are choosing to play
they
in the
don't.
tournament.
They don't play
Okay,
in
but
tournaments.
then it doesn't matter.
No, but I'm saying it might encourage them to if there was a
No, it would-
leveling
no, it
field.
doesn't.
And I think it could be a fun mechanic. So you
No,
are
it
both
doesn't.
not on board.
No,
to think it could be
the
fun.
way you want way you want to rate players is absolutely ridiculous. Because let's say, for example, I want to come in. I
I
want to
don't
sit
want to
down.
round them up in camps. I just want to give them a rating.
Right, but the only way for you to rate them is if everyone agrees that this is a rated round. So we're going to play as if it is a rated round.
I find
Because if
this-
I'm sitting down and I'm like, oh, I'm going to play my soldier tribal deck where my commander costs 5 mana, I have no 0-drop mana rocks, and I'm playing it just for fun. And then you're like, all of a sudden, oh, sweet, I beat you. My rating went up by 75 points. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
I'm not
Like, that doesn't
saying-
make any sense. Like that's
This
my
is-
point. Is
this
that if you're
so
going
comical.
if you're going to do ratings, I'm going to say this and I'll let you talk. If you're going to do ratings, the only way you could actually start rating players is if everyone is signing up for a tournament that they know is going to actually affect their rating. That's how they do it in disc golf. If I go play around with Swanee at his house, it doesn't affect my rating at all. It has nothing to do with it. When I sign up for a legal tournament for the PDGA and I play in that tournament, it then affects my rating as a player.
But
that's how if you want to do ratings, that's the only way to do it.
But here's the thing. The reason why is because there are no officials at Swanee's house.
But
Because it's not a PDGA sanctioned event.
Right. But
Why
my
would
point is,
I-
everything that happens within a WPN shop is Wizards approved.
No.
And therefore, all you would have to do is
No, it's
when
not.
you're playing
That's
Commander
not how that
on
works.
Commander night or whatever nights you work. No,
It's not.
that's
Because if I go
as
to the
as
shop right now-
factual statement, that's just not how that works.
Yeah, if I go to that shop right now and I sit down with a group of people, I'm like, hey, you guys okay? We play with a bunch of band cards. They're like, yeah, that's fine. That's not how
okay,
it works.
That's not what I meant.
But that's what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is they are authorized by Wizards to represent Wizards in a way.
Right, so
they are
That's
authorized.
not untrue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the way that would work.
Hold on. You said you would let me talk, so let me talk.
Yeah, I am letting you
We're
talk.
running
And
out
you're
of talk.
talking gibberish.
No.
All right, fine, finish.
So my point is, when you go down, sit down, playing Commander in the whatever pod you're in, there you record wins. You have an official sheet. You record wins. Everybody's watching you. It's not secretive. They can see when you mark a win. They could even use the companion app, right, to record how many wins you have. When Andrew wins 8 times and I win 2,
They're still
he gets
salty
more
about last
points than me.
night.
Right. If we're sitting down to a game again and you're not telling me that it's rated, and then you're like, oh, Sloan, your rating just went down because you lost. You got fourth place.
I'm not saying do it in secret.
I'm not saying do. Okay, right, exactly. So what you're saying is everyone agrees that you're playing a rated round. I'm saying it really clearly in the mic. That's what you're saying, which is literally what I said. Everyone has to sit down and agree that it's a rated round, meaning there has to be a pre-game discussion of, guys, we're going to play a game of Commander that is going to affect your rating as a player.
Okay,
That's just
but
a
it's
league.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's my
So
point.
call
That's
it
what I'm
league
trying to
play.
say.
Call it league play, and it's only valid in league play. I just think it would be fun.
I don't need to know what rating I am as a player.
Honestly, because if that was the case, I would build 2 CDH decks, and that's all I'd ever play in it. I would never play anything else.
I think it would be fun.
Why would there?
Maybe I will ask around at Command Fest in Orlando in Vegas. But we're running out of time, so I just want to kind of wrap this up because we are running out of time. I think it would be fun. Apparently, I'm in the minority.
Just the way you're presenting it is absolutely ridiculous and makes no sense. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to rate players, but you just have to do it in a sanctioned.
There is definitely a reason why we want decks to be comparable to each other. I don't see the purpose of trying to compare players.
Right.
I think it matters.
Because here's the last point I'll make against it. Someone could intentionally sandbag and lose games on purpose, so that way when they go to a tournament and they're like, "Oh, I'm only a 6," and then they go to that tournament and they just wipe the floor with everybody. Because no one know why that happens. That happens at disc golf all the time.
Right. But
There's
do you know
guys
what
that will
happens
intentionally
after that tournament?
sandbag.
What happens after that tournament?
Nothing.
Their rating doesn't go shooting up because they beat all those players.
No, all they do is they go play in a couple more lower tier tournaments, lose on purpose again, and knock their rating
Well,
back
they
down.
shouldn't allow that.
How are you going to control it?
No, because if you win in a tournament, that is your rating. You can't play
But
in
it's
lesser.
accumulated over time. So every time you win or lose, it keeps going up and down. And how are you to say that he's cheating by playing bad?
Sportsmanship is hard.
Yeah,
Right.
but
yeah.
Anyway,
That's why you don't use people. People are horrible.
Anyway,
And then
we're-
Jack,
we're-
I apologize in advance for when I yell in the mic. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
I know you
Anyway,
can hear me, but
that was fun. I'm sorry you guys don't agree. I
it's
think
just
it would
a
be
hard
fun.
thing to do,
But
Duncan.
anyway,
You can't
is there
rate
any
people.
last comments you want to make about Wizards controlling EDH or?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm cautiously optimistic that
Right.
the game will change for the better with Wizards' official stewardship.
I'm in the same boat.
I
I also do have reservations.
Yes. I had my differences with the RC as it was composed before. I could see the situation going bad and Wizards mismanaging things, but I can also see them doing a lot of good for the format. So cautiously optimistic.
I'll just say Sloan's advice, which I know kind of sounds hilarious coming out of what just happened, after what just happened.
Don't yell at other people.
No. You can yell at other people. That's fine. Just don't be mean to other people. You can be mean to people. I don't care. No, my Sloan's advice is try not to overreact to things, guys. And I know. That's why I said it was funny. It's ironic. When it comes to what's happening with the format, what's happening in Wizards, what's happening with everything, don't just knee-jerk react to the first thing you feel like is okay. Same thing in your games. If something happens in your game, don't overreact to it and immediately knee-jerk and then just decide, oh, this game's over, I'm just going to scoop. Like, let it play out. You don't know what other people have. You don't know how other people can save you or potentially help you get back in the game. You don't know. Don't overreact. Don't freak out about the ownership changing hands or anything that happens. Just remember, guys, only time will tell. All right. We can only know things after we've seen what happens. So don't speculate. Don't overreact, guys.
It's ultimately our format. We're the players. We decide how we want to play Magic.
That's right.
If you want to play Magic a different way with your group, build your local consensus, play however you want. Nothing that anyone else does should matter to you more than your personal enjoyment and the enjoyment of your friends.
Right. And that's my thing. And the only reason I've taken a hard stance against the people that wanted to keep Mana Crypt in their deck in our meta is because there needs to be standards and there needs to be rules. And until we all agree to play with it, the rules are as stated by the rules committee, whether it's Wizards or whether it's previous. So that's the only reason I have. Now, if they want to have a conversation with me about particular games, we can have those conversations. But I agree. I am cautiously optimistic about it. I actually think this could be really good for the format.
Could.
I point to Modern as the kind of way that they have been able to handle themselves in a responsible manner and produce a ban list that is fair and reactionary appropriately. So I think it's going to be really good. I am hoping that this tier system is the start of something better, and we'll see how it actually pans out. But
keep working, Wizards. I think you're on the right path just at the very beginning of it.
yes, so but
It's probably a long path too.
it probably is. It'll probably be a couple years before we really get things where we want them. Hopefully, they keep working on it. And, we'll see where the bans and unbans go, but. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again. This has been a really fun discussion. I really like the end there. I wish we could have gone a little longer on that. But I want to thank Jack May at Info Pilgrims, as always. Jeff, good luck out there in France, and come back safe. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
All of my flyers died in the hurricane, but I'll cast more.
Yes. And you can email us, cast@commanderspod.com, if you have any questions or any things you want to say to us, or maybe we can relay for you. You can check out our website, commanderspod.com. Check out our YouTube. You can also support us at patreon.com/commanderspod. And when next you see Andrew in Magic, kill him first.
If you can.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way in the world of EDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's draw and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave a mark.